Hello collectors and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video and welcome to episode 269 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday where I take your questions from the comments section and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video and you want to see this series carry on, then please leave your questions in the comments section of this video, and as I said, hopefully your question will be chosen next week. Also, hit the like button if you do happen to enjoy the video, subscribe if you are new. And before we get on to this week's questions, I do have a couple of things that I need to go over, and I do recommend that you don't skip on to the question and answers section of this video because this may well interest you. So first of all, I'd just like to say thank you to my latest Patreon supporter, which is the Max Rebo Experience. Thank you so much for signing up, buddy. And also a big thank you to Marco Martinez, who left a super thanks on my Crosshair review. So thank you once again for that, buddy. Really appreciate it. Secondly, the winner of the giveaway for the Anakin 3-pack did come forward in the end, so that's all good. And the winner of the graded Republic Trooper will be announced later on in this video. I do apologise for not doing that yet, but basically I was on holiday last week in Portugal, so I didn't do an Ask Boss Bounty video. And before that, I was just waiting for all of the entrants for that giveaway to be visible to me in the back end of Whatnot. Speaking of Whatnot, I do have an announcement to make that once again I am pleased to say that I am partnering with them once again, and I will be doing another fantastic giveaway for you guys. This time I am going to be giving away this. This is a very sought after Revenge of the Jedi Princess Leia. This is the Canadian variant VC64. One lucky winner will be taking this home, and to enter all you need to do is sign up to Whatnot using my link in the description below. Once you sign up, you will be greeted with a £10 credit to spend, or $15 if you are in the United States. And then what you need to do is just leave your Whatnot username in the comments section of this video, and that is it. You will be entered to win this fantastic sought after Princess Leia in slave outfit from Revenge of the Jedi. Very sought after from TVC 1.0. Who knows if this will ever be made again. So I thought that'd make a pretty good giveaway. Now, if you're not sure what Whatnot is, I have mentioned it a few times on previous videos where I've done giveaways. It's an app, but there is a desktop version of it as well. And basically, people buy and sell stuff on there, and they sell collectibles. So it could be Star Wars, it could be Funko Pops, it could be Marvel. There's all sorts of things on there. Some great sellers. I've purchased quite a few things on there now. I've been having a lot of fun buying a few wrestling figures for my son, for example. Some great wrestling sellers on there. I've also bought a couple of graded vintage collection figures for myself. So all in all, I'm really enjoying and having a lot of fun on Whatnot. But that is not all. On Saturday at 9 PM, this Saturday 9 PM, I will be doing my first ever live stream on Whatnot, where I will be doing live auctions. And everything that you can see in front of you here, except for Bossk, of course, will be up for auction. Now, some of these, not all of them, but some of them will be starting at just £1. So we'll see how that goes. Other things in the auction, hopefully, will be a good deal. And of course, if in the UK, you'll be able to use that £10 credit towards something. So if you win something that costs £10, you're only going to be paying for the shipping for that item. So win-win all round. Also, on that live stream, for anyone that does buy anything from me on my live stream, you will be entered into the buyer's giveaway, which will be run quite near the end of the stream. And for that, I am going to be giving away the brand new mint in box land speeder. So anybody that buys anything on my Whatnot stream, my first ever one, I hope it's going to go well, will be entered to win that. And there'll be other giveaways throughout the stream, little things I'm going to be giving away that anyone can enter whether you buy anything or not. But it's going to be a great chance for us to talk vintage collection in general whilst having some fun and auctioning off a few items. Don't worry guys, I'm not leaving the hobby or anything like that. All of these things are either things that I can't fit into my collection, can't display, or maybe I've got doubles of and things like that. So hopefully other people can enjoy them. So that's Whatnot. Use the link in the description below to sign up. As I said, you'll be greeted with the £10 or $15 credit, and take a look at it. have a look at some other sellers. If there's nothing from me that you want to buy, there is loads of other sellers on there that you might want to buy from. Yeah, so sorry that took so long, but yeah, I just wanted to announce that I will be doing that live stream this Saturday, and it's not set up on my Whatnot yet, but it will be, so be sure to keep an eye out for it once you're following me on Whatnot using that link, and also checking out my social medias throughout the week. I'll be doing plenty of reminders during the week anyway. So with all that being said, let's get on to the first question. This is No Cave Says question for next week. It seems that it's that time of year again. I recently saw posts for the 2025 edition of Last Figure Standing, and it seems like some headway was made with the 2024 top 12. 3 of them have been made and 2 are strongly rumoured, but there doesn't seem to be any sign of the winner, Ali or Shush, coming anytime soon. Still, there seem to be undercurrents that a number of the 2024 contestants could be in the works according to certain rumour lists. Have you begun shaping your own top 10 list this year? And are there any significant differences to the 2025 process that you're at liberty to discuss? So there isn't really anything significant to say about any differences to this year's process, except for the fact that we're not going to be doing a live stream every week to announce the winner. Basically, we'll be doing a couple of live streams throughout. Of course, the launch live stream is on August 2nd, which is a Saturday night, so be sure to get that in your diaries. And in terms of my personal top 10, I've kind of started constructing it. There's going to be a few Andor figures in there without a doubt, maybe a couple of Prequel as well, but we'll have to wait and see. One thing I can tell you 100% is that I will not be putting Ali or Shush in my list this year. I think he had plenty of coverage last year, and I just want to mix my personal list up a little bit this year. But be sure to check out Last Figure Standing on Instagram. We'll be doing some posts on there. We'll also be providing some material for you to use to show off your top 10s basically, and post them on social media and things like that, just to make it a bit easier for you guys. But yeah, be sure to check out also John Miko's Facebook group and also Bantha Skull for updates before the event starts. Noble Anubis says, do you think we'll get an updated Padme from Attack of the Clones? The older ones aren't up to modern standards. Thanks, and keep up the great work. So yeah, this is a funny one, because I've always kind of been of the opinion that this one from the 3.75 inch Black Series was a decent figure, and for its time it probably was. She's got the sort of scrapes on her back there, and I always thought that was pretty good, and it's actually a pretty good likeness for the time as well. But swivel hips on main characters, on any character really, but especially main characters, is not something that we want to be promoting for Hasbro to be doing. So if a new Padme is going to be made, then it has to be an all new figure, in my opinion. Something along the lines of what the Black Series has would be very nice indeed. Now, whether we're going to get one or not is another matter. There are sort of rumblings that maybe next year's theme is going to be Prequel related. Now, that could be Prequel as a whole, or it could be Revenge of the Sith. We really don't know at this point. We don't really know if it is going to be Prequel at all, but that is what a lot of people are suspecting. And if that is the case, then I really do hope that we do get a Padme, because so many of the main characters from the prequels need updating. We need new Obi-Wans, we need new Qui-Gons, we need all of the characters really. We've recently got the Anakin in that 3-pack. That's a really good figure, so you could imagine we'll probably get a Revenge of the Sith version of him. But there's loads of other Jedis and stuff like that, Ki-Adi-Mundi, things like that. So I would hope that she would be included when they're looking at figures to do, if that is the theme of next year. Lou Skywalker says, another great video, Tim. Your vids are always a highlight of my Sunday. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. He says, a lot of your videos lately have the streets of Mos Eisley in them. It's so weird seeing it in its regular colour. I painted mine as soon as I got it. Was a bit scared to alter it at first, but watched some videos on YouTube and it looked easy enough. And yes, it was. It looks amazing with a wash. Question for next week. Would you or have you ever tried painting any of your collection, or do you prefer to keep them unaltered? Keep up the great work. So yeah, I've got to say that, and I've said this before, art is not really my thing. I remember sort of painting miniature figures when I was little, like Warhammer figures and things like that. And I actually thought, I'm pretty good at this. And then I'd go round to my next door neighbour's house and see how he was doing his. And then I'd realise that I'm actually not good at it at all. And also when it comes to Hasbro products, I'm kind of a purist. I kind of like to keep them how they are. And it is a bit of a shame that Hasbro aren't really sort of, painting these items anymore. Like the Mos Eisley streets definitely needs a wash over it. I mean, everyone can see that. And it would probably look better in my collection had I have that. But ultimately, it's not something that I really want to do or have the time to do particularly. And yeah, as I say, I'm just a bit of a purist. I prefer keeping things as they are, if you like. Edward McCoy says, hi Bossk, even with the recent Battle Droid pack, I still feel that the Separatists don't get much love. So my question for next week is there a CIS vehicles from past lines you'd like to see added to TVC? Personally, I'd love to see a retooled AAT or STAP. Yeah, I mean, those two you've mentioned are probably the ones that would be at the top of my list thinking about it, because, you know, we're never going to get an MTT again, are we? Certainly one that's got all those cool electronics in it. But an AAT, I feel, is something that maybe we've never had in its proper scale, I would say. I think maybe they've always been a little undersized. So it'd be pretty cool if they did a new AAT. And a STAP, the one that we've got is pretty good, but again, something like updated in vintage collection quality is never a bad thing. So I'm with you with those two. I'd probably pick those. As I said, the MTT would be another one, but it's just never going to happen, is it? New Patreon supporter, the Max Rebo Experience, says, question for next week, would you like to see a Gambling Trandoshans 3-pack from the scene in the Book of Boba Fett where Black K rips one of their arms off? Do we also need a Garson Whip figure as well? Cheers. I'm not too sure if we need one. I think it's one of those ones that would be quite nice to have. I don't think she'd be really high up in my wants and needs for the line, but it's one of those that would be pretty cool if they did it, right? In terms of the Trandoshans, I think I'd prefer to have like the Thug Trandoshans from The Mandalorian. You can see them in the sort of cantina bar, and obviously they're also in that scene where they attack The Mandalorian. I think I'd probably prefer to have them, and also for customizers, I feel you could probably get a bit more out of those characters as well, just because of the nature of what they're wearing. I also felt that the ones that were in Garsa's cantina, or whatever it's called, boudoir, whatever it was, they looked a bit weird. Their heads looked a bit weird, their eyes were a bit funny. I'm not really too sure what they did there, but yeah, I think I'd prefer the Thug ones from The Mandalorian. Jeffrey Cobb says, question for next week, do you think Hasbro will use the Carson Taver sculpt to make a Jack Porkins figure? So I remember back before Carson Taver was even announced, you know, people were asking this question, and I felt they could potentially do that, right? But then other people in the comments would say, no, Jet Porkins is a larger guy than Carson Taver. And since getting the figure in hand, I can kind of see where they're coming from. But also I feel that if you were just to head swap that with Jet Porkins, it might do. And I think Hasbro might feel that as well. I do feel that anybody out there that does want a Jet Porkins, like an all new one, I don't think that'll happen. And I think if we ever did get one, they would probably use that body. Although saying that, you know, I think it's quite obvious that he isn't as large a guy as Jack, this character, is he? So we'll have to wait and see what they do. I mean, I think I'd probably take it, in all honesty, to get a Porkins, but let me know in the comment section below if you agree. Joe Besnecker says, hey Boss, question for next week. I know I asked this before, but since we are getting more Snowtroopers from both the 4-pack Army Builder and the Snowtrooper Commander from the 3-pack, do you think there's a higher chance of Hasbro making the Galactic Marines from Revenge of the Sith? Because that could be another Army Builder pack, in my opinion. It most certainly could be an Army Builder pack, and I would buy a few of those, absolutely. Galactic Marine is definitely a figure that I've had on multiple times for fan polls, like, you know, Last Figure Standing or March Madness. It's definitely one that I want, 100%. However, I don't feel that the Snowtrooper or the Commander has any sort of real bearing on that, because the helmets are actually very different, and also the uniforms are pretty different as well. I don't feel that there's anything really that they could use from the Snowtrooper on a Galactic Marine, and I don't think anybody out there would really want them to do that either. Especially when you look at Lego, for example. Lego have just announced a new turbo tank, and you get Galactic Marines in that. Finally, there's Lego Galactic Marines, and those actually have a newly sculpted helmet. They haven't used the Snowtrooper helmet because they are different. So I don't really feel that sort of just because we have the Snowtrooper that really enhances. I do feel if the Galactic Marine does well in fan polls, and then next year's theme is, you know, prequel related, then that would be a great Army Builder for them to do, without a doubt. I'm sure it'd sell pretty well. Anatar Lord of Gifts says, hey boss, my question for you next week is something I ask you to keep an open mind about. Despite the Acolyte not being the most well-received Star Wars story, I myself recognising its shortcomings, I feel we still need some of the characters in the Vintage Collection before all is done. Which Acolyte characters do you feel need to be properly included in future releases before Star Wars fans can put the show behind them? So yeah, keeping an open mind about it. The Acolyte isn't one of my favourite things in Star Wars, and the figures aren't really something that I you know, are clamoring for, basically. But I feel that if you're going to do something and you're going to get some of the main characters out, then I am all for sort of completing crews and things like that. So there's probably 3 characters that I feel that we do need, and that is it Jeki? Because I think that's quite a cool Jedi, like an alien Jedi. I think that's a pretty cool character. And then, of course, the Kelnaka, which is the Wookiee Jedi. That's a great looking character. And then the main bad guy, the Stranger, you know. And I feel those 3 added to the ones that we have is a good amount to have from a new show. Dan Von Carr says, question for next week, TVC is the world building line, but I feel Hasbro could do better in terms of dioramas and props. Do you think it's possible they could release generic space walls or dioramas that can be used in multiple displays? For example, Imperial walls for Death Star, Star Destroyer, Imperial base, or desert dioramas with accessories that can be either Tatooine or Jakku. Or maybe accessory packs like those released in the episode 1 line. So out of all of that, I feel the only thing that they would ever really consider is the accessory packs. Potentially, they've, as you said, they've done them before. When it comes to like things like walls and generic backdrops and things like that, I kind of feel that Hasbro feel that especially with the rise of 3D printing, that the 3D printer guys have kind of got that covered. And there used to be other companies out there before even 3D printing was a thing that were producing that kind of thing. So maybe it's just not an area that they really want to go in, and essentially if you want like some Imperial walls, then you've got to buy a playset, basically, like the Moff Gideon one or the Tantive 4 playset, basically. I feel when the Moff Gideon one came out, everyone was looking at that going, man, I wish we had an Imperial walls like inside the Death Star, or as you say, a Star Destroyer or something like that, because that would be a cool backdrop for your figures, right? And you know, I think over the years people have, created their own, and especially, as I say, with 3D printing now, they're quite easily attainable, and maybe Hasbro just doesn't want to sort of compete with that. Keegan Kawahara says, hey there, BB, hope you're having a blast this Sunday. Your Q&A videos are basically my version of Jedi meditation. Question for next week, with all these awesome remakes lately, what are the odds Hasbro blesses us with a Jango Fett Slave 1, since they already have the mold from Boba's? I wouldn't be surprised if it eventually drops. What are your thoughts? Thanks, BB. May the plastic be with you. So when it comes to Jango Slave 1, I think you're right. They will probably use the mold that they already have. I can't ever really see them sort of creating an all-new Slave 1. And if once again next year's theme is, you know, prequel related, then maybe that's a vehicle that they could get out. You know, the Jango coloured Slave 1. They won't call it Slave 1, mind. And maybe that's a good way of getting a Jango Fett on card as well, because obviously we know we've only got the deluxe version. And all of those extra pieces that they want to give him, maybe a poncho or whatever, why don't you put those in a little baggie inside the Slave 1, but just keep the figure with his 2 sidearms and his helmet inside the bubble as like a normal standard figure included in the set. That's what I would do anyway. Rob Bullock says, hey Tim, question for next week. If you were in the market to buy a freighter or cargo gunship for yourself, and the only 4 ships on the used spaceship lot to choose from were the Razor Crest, the Slave 1, the Ghost, or the Millennium Falcon, which would you purchase and why? Man, it's got to be the Millennium Falcon. It's the classic. It's so iconic, and you know, if we're thinking about Kenner and toys, I still feel that the Kenner Millennium Falcon is the greatest toy ever made out of anything. So I'd have to go with that. Alright then, so now it's time to find out who has won the giveaway for the graded Republic Trooper. So this was for anybody that signed up to Whatnot using my link and then went on to make a purchase via Whatnot in that designated time period that the giveaway was winning. We've got all of the names here. These are your Whatnot usernames. So we're going to spin the wheel now to see who wins, and then whoever wins, if you could contact me, tim@bosksbounty.com, or via direct message on Instagram or Twitter, whatever you want to do. But just if you could contact me, that would be great. Let's see who wins. Good luck to everybody. Let's spin the wheel. And the winner is Gabidal. You are the winner. Congratulations. Yes, if you could contact me, that would be great. Thanks very much to everybody that entered. Nicholas Hallow says, hi boss, question next week. If TVC is primarily an adult collector line, Epic Heroes being the kids line, and the majority of TVC collectors being middle-aged men, according to some of Steve Evans' recent Insta polls, should it even matter if Andor is not as toyetic as The Mandalorian? if the demand is still there for the figures. I think most TVC collectors probably want Luthen, Cyril, Kleya, etc. to add to their Andor lineup. Cheers. 100% buddy. I mean, I'm with you. I want all of the Andor figures and couldn't really care less whether they're toyetic or not. I still feel that there is a bit of a balance to be had, and this isn't necessarily coming from me as a collector. I think this is maybe how Hasbro think, right? They think about what looks good in the package. They think about you know, play features, because primarily these things are still toys, but they're toys aimed at an adult collector. So it's a bit of a grey area, I've got to say, but I still think, you know, Hasbro know that a Darth Vader or a Captain Rex or a Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to sell more than a client from The Mandalorian, for example. It just will. And that's probably the issues that we have. Beast of Viper Squad says, hi Bossk, great show as always. Look forward to it every Sunday. Question for next week. As most Haslabs have changes to their designs or features between funding and release, have you heard of any news of the Cantina? Like any changes they've made to it? Seems after the campaign funded, Hasbro hasn't said a word or update about it. Also, are there any initial changes you would like to see from what they have shown us? Me, I would like to be able to connect the Mos Eisley streets to the Cantina. So I think the last update that we had was from Star Wars Celebration. I think they had the Cantina on show in a glass cabinet for everybody to see. And going by what people said, nothing has really changed from the initial launch and, you know, what we saw when we were sort of funding it, as it were. What would I like to change about it is 100% the paint applications of it, or the lack of. It looks very clean, just like the streets of Mos Eisley does, and we were talking about that earlier about painting it yourself. I don't really want to be having to paint the Cantina myself. I want it out of the box painted if possible, and I feel when you even look at things like the Jabba's Palace, right, the front of that has like this sort of detailing on it to bring out all of the details of it, and even the back wall as well has some, you know, grime and stuff on it. And the Cantina, from what I can see, doesn't really have any of that. Obviously we'll see what happens when we all get it in hand, but from what I can see, it lacks a wash. You know, it's a grubby place, isn't it? It's a sort of underworld place where it's a bit grimy, so you would hope that it would be you know, painted as such, but it doesn't look like it is. So that's what I would change. But in terms of the only thing that I'm really waiting to see now is the box. I want to see the packaging, and I don't think we've seen that yet. Terry Bull says, question for next week. So the VC numbers are now past the 375 mark with no 375 announced. What event or situation could they possibly be waiting for? They really can't release too many before announcing 375, can they? I guess they can do what they like with it. There has been times where they've accidentally skipped a number, I think, and then it took them ages to get to it. I think, what was that? Was that 177 or 277? One of those. I think they numbered two figures the same number. I think it's the Incinerator Trooper and the Mandalorian. And then it took ages to get that sort of missing number back out. But ultimately, I hope it's pretty soon. And, you know, what could it be? I mean, is it going to be something that's really a nod to the original Kenner line, and or a nod to the, you know, the fact that it's a 3.75 inch figure? That's obviously why they've done it. Steve Evans is definitely treating it as something special, and he's probably just waiting for the right sort of opportunity to come along. Will that be SDCC? We'll wait and see. Scott Borum says, hi Tim, we used to watch Grange Hill here in Australia all those years ago, and it was a bit funny to see Mr. Bronson as Admiral Ozzel, which brings me to my question for next week. Do you think we will get Admiral Ozzel or any of the Imperial officers from A New Hope, like Dane Jeer, Shan Chilson, Pol Tradum, Moradin Bast? These figures would be a quick and easy and cheap win given that they have the mould already. A 4-pack of these would be good enough. I know there's already an Imperial Officers 4-pack, but they just can't seem to get those 4-packs right. Seems to be so many wasted opportunities with them. Also, with the rumours of the next theme being from the prequels, or maybe it's just wishful thinking by a lot of us, what figures would you like to see from the prequels? We are in desperate need of an updated Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan from The Phantom Menace, and an updated Obi-Wan Revenge of the Sith. Cheers for all you do for the collecting community. So taking the first part of your question there, yeah, I really did hope that the Imperial Officers 4-pack, you know, if they ever were going to do that, would be, you know, named Imperial Officers. Now that goes against the army builder sort of packs, but I still believe you can have a character pack. You don't necessarily need to buy multiples of them. You just need to buy one, but at least then you get those named officers, which, let's face it, are going to be pretty difficult for them to get out on single cards. So you're right. I feel that they should have done that instead of like the random ones that we got. In terms of your second question, what characters do I want from the prequels? Man, there is a long, long list. I love the prequels, but just to name a few. Ki-Adi-Mundi, Bakara, Galactic Marines, Kashyyyk Troopers, the Wookiee Tarful, Darth Sidious, a proper decent Darth Sidious like the Black Series have got. One that doesn't look like he's wearing a mink coat to the opera. We need a decent one. Really don't like the one that we currently have. So there's just a few for you, and that's not even scratching the surface. Totally Taylor Retro Hunters says, hey BB, question next week. With the canteen almost upon us, how long do you foresee before we know about the next Haslab? Do you think they will start another Return to Tatooine but in a different location? And do you think this event has been successful? So they're definitely going to be doing another theme, because Steve Evans did say so. He said, we've taken you to Tatooine, and who knows, next time we'll take you somewhere else. Now, whether that means to another planet or another era, we kind of don't know, but a lot of people are thinking it's going to be an era like the prequels basically. In terms of the Haslab, I'm still of the opinion that we will be getting a Haslab every year. I think they center a lot of what they do in the vintage collection around having a Haslab, in terms of like, you know, just the community sort of getting together, a lot of their marketing and all that kind of thing. It's a good sort of thing to have as like a big ticket item for the year, and it definitely works for the vintage collection. No idea what they're going to be doing with the Black Series if they're ever going to do it, but I still feel that we're going to get one every year. And hopefully, you know, the biggest event now is San Diego Comic-Con. It's not that far away, it's not too much longer to wait, and I really do hope that they announce something there, whether that be the Haslab and the theme or just one of those two. But I've got a feeling we might hear about both. That's what I'm keeping my fingers crossed for anyway. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's episode. It was a pretty long one today, loads of questions answered and also quite a hefty intro. Do apologise about that, but I did want to make you aware of Whatnot and the giveaway that I'm going to be doing, and of course my Whatnot live stream that I'm planning on doing, which I'm really looking forward to. I did want to mention that it's not just going to be these figures that are going to be for sale in the auction. There are going to be countless carded figures as well, and probably some more loose ones as well. We've also got some vintage Kenner up there. There's going to be all sorts going on in that live stream, and there may be even the chance for you to say, Tim, do you have one of these? And I might be able to dig it out for you and list it on there for an auction. Who knows, man, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So be sure to use the link in the description below to sign up and claim your free credits. Leave your Whatnot username in the comments of this video, and you'll be entered in the giveaway to win the Princess Leia. And of course, on the live stream, I will have the buyer's giveaway as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you once again, as always, to my Patreon supporters and channel members for the extra support. It is greatly appreciated. And thank you to everybody that has got this far in the video and watched the whole video. Thanks for watching, guys, and we shall see you on the next one.